And welcome back. Willkommen, Bună ziua, good afternoon to everybody. Uh, Decided I'm going to do another War Thunder mini walkthrough and kind of tutorial on a couple more premium aircraft. They're technically designated as two different aircraft. One's the B1U2, one is the B2U2, but statistically in the game, looking at the cards, they are identical in statistics, and they are both, wonderfully enough, in the markings of the Romanian Air Force, so I decided to do them both at once. The silver one, as you see it here, is the Italian premium. The camouflage one is the German. It's got the same armament as the BF 109E, the 792 MG17, and the 20 millimeter MGFF. However, it is the same as the E3 in that it's the regular MGFF, not the MGFF-M. So the weapons do slightly less damage, slightly lower yield explosive wise, and slightly lower rate of fire. Also, it has the Euchre's Umo 210 engine, not the DB601 engine of the BF 109 series. So it is actually quite underpowered. While it has a decent top speed listed in game at 313, which is faster than the IAR 81, it also has a faster, again, technically by statistics, turn rate than the IAR 81 at 15 seconds to complete a turn. However, with it being so underpowered and having such a relatively small wing in comparison to the IAR, it has a much slower rate of climb. It takes much longer to get up to full speed once you level it off after a climb. As I'll show you here in a minute, it loses speed very rapidly in a climb. And because of that small wing, high wing loading, it might technically turn faster, but it bleeds off so much speed in a full turn or trying to S turn like in a scissors with somebody that in one and a half full turns or like two or three S's of doing a scissors, you have basically lost all of your airspeed and are on the edge of a stall. Whereas the IAR, being a much lighter wing loading, although technically slower turn rate, will hold onto that turn for much longer. It will be able to make more revolutions. It might not make them as fast, but it can stay in a turn fight faster. And you see how quickly this is bleeding off speed. I was doing about 150. I'm not even at 5,000 feet, and I've almost dropped down to 100 miles an hour. This thing is, as I say, technically a higher top speed, but you have a very, very weak engine in this. Also, as you will see, I don't know what it is with this, even though it technically has the same firepower as the BF 109E. And there you see also, I forgot this was coming up, it has a very slow rate of roll. But it has the same firepower as the BF 109E3. However, when I fly it, for some reason, those guns don't seem to do shit unless you get a really lucky hit with those MGFF cannons. They don't really seem to do a lot, and you have the same issue you do with the 109E of only 60 rounds per gun. So I have to keep that in mind too. You got to be very, very careful with your ammunition in this thing. That's not to say it doesn't have good firepower, just for whatever reason, I have not gotten good results with it. As you see here, this one and the other one I fly, they're not ground shakingly great missions by any stretch. I don't really do all that well with them, but they're about as good as I ever do in the He-112. It does, however, have the bonus of they are both listed as Tier 1. And if you can get your hands on them, if they happen to be available for sale, because sometimes they come and go from the marketplace, they do a very good return on investment for research points for Tier 1 and Tier 2 aircraft. So if you're somebody starting out in the game and you want something to get free research points to be able to research more aircraft, make a little bit better Silver Lions in the game, than you normally would with the regular hangar aircraft, it is worth the very small price in gold that it costs to buy these, in my opinion. They're not indestructible. In fact, they have no armor at all. They are completely unarmored. The weapons are nothing special, but they do prepare you for when you get into the BF-109E series, since they're the same weapons. Good way to learn the gunnery, good way to learn how to shoot with them before you get to those ones, if that's what you're going for. But if you're looking for something that is, dominant uber plane in its tier to help you, really, really get through the battles, I very much do not recommend the He-112 for that. It is fun. It is not a super plane. And here you'll see just how bad the rate of climb is. I'm pulling up to try and get nose on this bomber. He was only about 2,000 feet higher than me, and as you'll see, when I pull the trigger, I am almost at a stall, and I have nowhere near reached his altitude. Don't hit him. I just did a quick shot just to see as he passed over if I get lucky. And then as I level off, I'm dropping, leaving wingtip contrails because I have lost all of my airspeed and was on the edge of stalling out. So you very, very, very much need to be energy mindful in this. This is a plane that definitely rewards planning ahead. That was why you see I was climbing off to the side with this, much like the IAR-81C. This is an aircraft that you need to build up your speed and have altitude going into a fight. If they are above you, if they are faster than you, even if they're equally maneuverable or less armed than you, you are pretty much screwed in this aircraft. But as any fighter pilot will tell you, altitude can be converted to speed. And this thing builds up speed and actually holds it until you turn pretty well. So if you want to use it as a boom and zoom, or you want to get high above a fight, and I don't mean high as in like 15,000 feet above a fight on the deck, but with a 5,000 or 6,000 foot buffer to be able to dive, it will build up enough speed to boom and zoom, make one or two turns, and then hopefully be able to get you the hell out of the fight. So this guy, I am more or less just trying to do enough damage to him to take him out. He's the only thing I have at my altitude, my level, so I said the hell with it and commit to fighting him. And as you see, I am hitting him pretty well. You're seeing a lot of impacts on his plane, but I can't do anything critical to take him out other than picking off his gunners, damaging his engine. I'm hopefully trying to damage his control surfaces, but I'm not able to take him out. However, he does crash as I'm landing, as you'll see at the end here. And he was the last one alive, so we end up winning this. So I do get a kill on him, and I decide I have nothing left but the machine guns. I'm not going to bother chasing him. He's already damaged me. I'm losing fuel. So I forgot I looked back on him. As I say, I usually don't like to show the opponent's names on this, but I turned everything back on in the film viewer so you can see how quickly this thing builds up the speed and how it's doing at that speed. I'm already approaching 400 miles an hour. It's a pretty fast aircraft once you put the nose down. Very sleek, very, very aerodynamic. It's the engine that lets it down. However, you see now that I'm well over 400 and coming into the denser air at a lower level, my wings are really starting to shake. Pull the nose up very carefully to hold on to some of that speed. And then I do a roll and then a turn to show you how stiff the controls are at this speed. I'm at just past below 400 miles an hour, so there's the roll. That is nothing spectacular if you're in a scissors fight. And then the turn, and watch, I'm at 370 when I start the turn, make a single 360 degree rotation with the nose slightly up at the beginning, and I am down to almost 200 miles an hour. This thing does not hold energy. It builds it relatively quickly, but with the high wing loading, it very, very, very quickly loses whatever speed you manage to build if you commit to a turn fight, which I very rarely do in it. However, I also very rarely get the opportunity to fight to its strengths, because, you kind of are, whatever the enemy does kind of limits what you can do. If you set up to do a boom and zoom fight and nobody is in position to be boom and zoomed, you're kind of screwed. But this is my usual fast landing method. Come in, dive, cut the engine, make a full pull, turn, bleed off as much speed, and as soon as I'm below 200 miles an hour, start dropping flaps and gear, line it up, and set it down. Not exactly realistic, but it gets you on the ground fast, clears your tail, and you're not doing the long, slow approach to the end of the runway with somebody potentially coming in behind you to shoot you down. So, just from years of flight sims, that's just the habit I've gotten into. And as after I've landed here and as I'm rearming, you'll hear the little ding, that guy crashes, and that's the end of the match. We got the win here, so there it is. So the end of that one. And now we're going up in the Italian. I do a little bit better in this one. This one I actually get into a dogfight and get some kills. You get a little bit of a chance to see its strengths and weaknesses. Also, in this one, I am helping out at one point a couple of He-112s, which are a plane in game that is in the tech tree. It's not a premium, which is kind of the opposite of this one, in that it is very fast, climbs very well, holds its speed pretty well. It's got a different wing design. Despite being a Heinkel, it's a different wing shape and design. But it's built for speed and holds its speed very well. But it is also very, very fragile and is only armed with machine guns. So every strength you have in the He-112, you basically have the opposite in the Heinkel 100. So the two of them actually work quite well together if you can wing up with somebody. You've got the really, really fast energy fighter. It maintains energy well. And you've got this one, which is the underpowered but well-armed, quote-unquote, dogfighter. So between the two of them, they make a very good pair. I also want to just mention the gentleman that was in the PBM Mariner that I shot down in the last one. Uh, the previous flight before that, I had a really good flight in the IAR 81C, and he was also the last kill I got in that mission. So I kind of felt bad having killed this guy 2 runs in a row in 2 different aircraft. And thankfully he's not in this one, because this was the 3rd consecutive flight. I had 3 really good flights in a row. I decided to use both of these 112s. I was mainly just flying to get footage, but they were both actually really good matches that showed it off, its strengths and weaknesses, so I decided to just go ahead and use them as were. And the IAR flight that I had, you'll see as the second part of one I'm coming up with, that is 2 very good IAR fights that I had that I'm going to release as another, kind of like this walkthrough, show how I use it, strengths and weaknesses, because there was a lot more fighter versus fighter fighting in that one than in the previous one I had done. So you'll get a little bit better chance to see it in action against equal opponents. Although the last couple of kills I got in it were bombers, but that's because that was pretty much all that was left. But I did get into some good anti-fighter combat with it too. So this one, again, I didn't want to cut it out. I wanted to leave it in to show how long it takes to get to altitude and build up speed in this. Also, as you see, the camera was going around and looking at this. If you're a skinner or modeler, just as a little point of interest with this, it is not a natural metal aircraft. It is painted silver, so you'll see the wear where the aluminum underneath is coming through with the wing roots from the pilot walking on it and stuff. Just if you're skinning, and just as a little historical note, it's not bare metal, that's paint. It is like an aluminum gray shiny paint, but it is not bare metal. And both of those colors, this and the camouflage that you saw in the German one, are both accurate. There's also photos of them with dark green fuselage and that yellow nose, and various combinations of stripes depending on when the photograph was taken. That Pluto that I have on the tail there, that actually is a Romanian unit insignia. That is, I believe, Grupul 5 the 5th Fighter Group. If I remember right, I could be wrong. Um, for some reason, the Romanians really, really liked using Disney characters as squadron insignia. Grupul Shapta, the 7th Fighter Group, used Donald Duck on their BF 109Es, and there were both individual and squadron markings on the IARs that used characters from Bambi as their insignias. So, for whatever reason, the Romanians loved Disney movies, which odd, interesting little note to see Axis aircraft with Disney characters as their squadron insignia. And I don't mean inspired by, I mean literally right off the cells, the Disney characters. So now I'm diving in. The Heinkel 100 is trying to catch a diving TBF Avenger over here. I dive in just in case, because I know how weak armor and survivability wise the Heinkel 100 is in case he gets a bad hit here. But he's able to get on this guy and start doing damage to him, so I break off and leave it. I don't want to kill steal on this guy. He put in the work to get him. I'll let him take him. So you see, I just to make sure, and then yeah, he's on him. He doesn't need my help. So back over this way, we have another Heinkel 100 that has got a couple of attack planes, a DB7 and an SBD that are dogfighting him. So I come in here to help. I try to get on the SBD. The SBD was apparently damaged because, as you'll see, I don't put a shot on him, and he augers into the ground over here. Boom, right there. So apparently he was already damaged by somebody. But I do get in on this DB7, take him out, and then get on a, I believe, get on a fighter after that. Yeah, P-39 if I remember right. So this DB7, a lot of people, if you're not really into this game familiar, a lot of people fly this French DB7 as a heavy fighter, so you will dogfight it quite frequently at this tier. But took him out, he's dead. So now we have, this guy is coming in on a damaged Heinkel 100, and I don't like to see teammates that are vulnerable get picked off, and I hate when it happens to me, so go in and try to help him. He does a little more damage to him. I believe he damages his engine, but when he tries to break off and get fancy here, that's his engine. Checking the score afterwards, looking in the buffer thing there, I knocked his engine out and didn't realize it. He was already dead, but I finish off the last couple of cannon shells, and then I kill the pilot with the machine gun. Make sure he's off this Heinkel's and ditch safely if that's what he needs to do, and I head back to base. I try to fly, even though it's a game, it is, I wouldn't even call War Thunder a simulator, it's a game. I try to fly like I was in an actual aircraft, which is to cover friendlies and try to make it home safe. I don't dive in doing the Leroy Jenkins bullshit and just try to take everybody out with me in a glorious blaze of glory, lather, rinse, repeat every match. I try to stay alive. I try to make it home. I try to, win the battle by playing smart. It doesn't always work. I quite often get left alone by teammates and everything else. Not everybody plays it, but that's the way I play. When I play the other way, I just don't enjoy it as much. So here, the other type of landing, the other thing with this aircraft I demonstrate here to show, it's got a huge rudder. If you chop the engine and fishtail it really hard a couple of times, it will very quickly bleed off about 100 miles an hour. So if you're trying to force somebody to overshoot, or you very quickly need to lose speed to land like I just did, you can really use that rudder, kick it real hard a couple of times, and bleed off speed to get you down. However, the rudder at high speeds, at above about 325 to 350, the rudder becomes very, very stiff. However, it has pretty good lateral stability, so you don't really need the rudder to keep the nose pointed at speed where you want it. Just keep in mind, if you're very fast and you're somebody like me who tries to use the rudder to kick the nose out to throw a little bit of a complication into a turn or roll, at high speed, it's not going to have much authority. You're basically going to be kicking it and pushing the button however you do it for no reason. It really doesn't do anything. At lower speed, yes, it's very effective. At higher speed, it is very, very stiff. Think Spitfire ailerons at 400 and something miles an hour stiff, or P-38 trying to pull up at 420 in a dive. It was me and that Heinkel 100 that I rescued left. However, when he comes into land badly damaged, he flips it over and kills the pilot, so it's just me left now. And there is only one bomber, that PBM, that I went under and didn't engage before to go in and attack the down low stuff. He's now coming back in, going after ground targets after rearming, so I go after him. I figure he's probably going to be down low, but as I said, with this aircraft, not exceptionally energy conservative, let's put it that way. So I climb toward where I believe he is, and just keep an eye out for him, and then use the speed to dive on him. However, as you'll see an example of what I've talked about with, I make a dive on him and unload with everything, and I don't think a single cannon shell actually hits him, or if it does nothing. I basically end up having to just peck away at him with my cowl machine guns, because the cannons are all sound and fury signifying nothing. So yeah, and I zoomed in just to make sure how close I was getting to that airfield, so I didn't get too close to its guns. Figured I was a good ways out, but just wanted to make sure. Can be kind of hard to tell sometimes when you're looking around for stuff. So now he's approaching underneath me over that city, and I'm continuing in a shallow climb to set up. And then once he comes underneath me, I'll explain as I do it, a little trick I've learned going into bombers. You can just see him passing over that clump of trees now. He should be coming out under my right wing root, coming up ahead here. Yep, there he is, just coming out of the trees. So with him being down there, whatever altitude it's at, whatever tier you're at, a habit I've gotten into from years and years of attacking bombers and fighters, when you're going to dive on them, everybody expects it. They know what you're going to do. It turns into a lead pursuit. Pull the nose up, chop the throttle, and then roll over, because it throws altitude complication and a variation in speed to throw off an enemy gunner. As stupid as it sounds, it can be enough to keep you alive for that first pass and maybe take the guy out. So you see there, I went through his bombs, lit him on fire, and he puts the fire out and continues on. So I forgot the cannons actually did do something in that. I was just remembering what came after with having to peck away at him, but the cannons actually did manage to light him on fire, so I take that back. They weren't useless in this case. So then it's down to... Now I'm out of cannon, but I did manage to hit him again. Got another engine smoking. And now it's just peck away at him until he inevitably crashes. And as I do, aim at the gun positions and take out his gunners so you can do it in relative safety. I probably would be considered a serial killer with the number of gunners I've killed in this game. I used to do the same thing playing Rise of Flight, aim for the gunner first and then worry about the plane, then because you can take your time and peck away at it. He's trying like hell to shake me off and make me do something stupid, but he's screwed. And I killed the pilot, I do believe. Yep, there we go, he's dead. So just waiting for it to black out. There you go, that's the Heinkel 112, both of the Romanian versions in War Thunder. Thanks for watching. Give me a like and subscribe if you like this so I can keep making more. And we'll see you later. Have a good one. L'arrivederci.